Ladies, gents, first of all, I've been asked to pass on the apologies of John Stevens. He was called out of the country this morning. He's in Qatar, short notice, business, but he sends his warmest regards. When I was asked to be one of his team, he said that he thought this commission was probably the most important piece of work he would do in his career. Probably high words from someone who's dealt with the things that he personally has had to deal with, but that's how he engaged all the people around the world that were at the first meeting. And they came from all corners of the globe: Australia, the States, Canada, Europe, attorney generals, district attorneys, academics, professors of criminology here, criminology there. The cast list of who he has assembled without pay. There is not one penny passed hands from the Labour Party to any of the people involved, either writing the report as we speak at this moment, or spending many expert witness hearings in the House of Lords. Not one penny has passed hands, because the criteria that John Stevens set out when he met Yvette Cooper was this report has to be independent. And independent it is. There is no favour either way with this. What's set out is to provide the police service with the very best possible opportunity, faced with what we're facing, to go forward with cuts, clearly, whether they're as significant under the Labour Party if they were in government as what we're facing now remains to be seen. But going forward with a lean service that can meet the challenges, and the challenges are immense, as we know. We don't even have to start where the challenges are, facing what we're facing today. But we've had some successes as well. Some recent successes. The Olympics was fantastic for policing. Gave great credit to the police service. The construction of the counter-terrorism capability in this country is probably second to none. And I think we should all be proud of that. And that was built largely on the back of the Olympics and the forthcoming Olympics. And even cutting crime, and I know we've heard about conviction rates dropping and some other statistics there that, these are the raw facts of cuts. But what we have is we've cut crime year on year. And this is despite all the sustained austerity that we're facing. So there's great credit to be given to the police service. And what the Commission is looking to do is to return that. Because we've done surveys, as Yvette Cooper mentioned, 30,000 surveys of police officers, 2,500 with members of the public. The one thing that comes through loud and clear from 2/3 of the people who we surveyed is that confidence, trust in the police remains high. And that's very recently. And we've heard about the scandals, that we could go on. Police officers, senior police officers, chief officers being suspended, being sacked for misconduct, criminal behaviour, Hillsborough, Levison, we could just go on. The public in this country have got confidence. How long that lasts, because there may come a time collectively where these things start turning against us in public opinion. But at the moment, our stock is high. Yvette Cooper's gone through some of the background, so I don't need to rehearse a lot of it. We've put together a PowerPoint presentation from the Commission, which I will not do this to death. I'm going to blast through it because I do want your thoughts. We're in the final rounds of consultation. The Superintendents Association is one of the very last now that we're going to be taking some thoughts from. And at the end of the presentation, there's half a dozen questions that I would like your thoughts, please, because it's important to us. We're still writing these sections. Nothing's predetermined. Everything is still in the melting pot. Lots of ideas are there. There's some very firm and fixed ideas now, very much evidence-based. But things are still open to consultation, and we welcome the views of the floor, please, on some of the questions towards the end. But just let me run through some of the key points on what we're looking at. Much has been mentioned, but one or two hasn't. I don't need to rehearse, the background to this. There are 40 members on the commission from all the various academia, professional expertise. Due to report next month. We hope the date is the 28th of October. That's when we're planning. We hope there's no slippage on that. The structure of the commission, very straightforward. John Stevens chairs it. A team of 40 commissioners as the advisory panel. Deputy chair is Professor Jennifer Brown from the London School of Economics, who's worked with John Stevens in the past on a number of reports. And she's a professor of criminology at that university. She's got a project team and a core editorial team. And the editorial team are writing the report based on all the evidence that's been gathered. And the academic reference group makes sure that it's underpinned with all the right degree of reference behind it. This outlines the scale of evidence gathering that has been undertaken. The witness hearings have been at the Lords. Derek Barnett gave evidence and put a written submission in from the SUPS Association. A lot of what was in that report it will feature in some of the findings and some of the recommendations because it's pretty consistent with a lot of other evidence and findings that we've taken as well. One-to-one interviews, regional meetings, surveys, phone-ins, all sorts of discussions, and there's a website where things are forwarded as well. So we've been with staff associations, SACPO, Sergeants Federation, and finally here at the SUPS. Yvette Cooper mentioned about diversity. We would say of course, it's part of the changing face of policing. We've a long way to go to reflect the makeup of communities, but compared to where we were at the time of the Royal Commission in 1962, it's unrecognisable. Roles, the mix, the blend of all the different roles. How far does it go? Partnership, outsourcing. It's an area of business that's highly contentious. Mission creep comes in, and that's an expression from the superintendent's submission to us. There's a danger of mission creep into operational roles. We're very much aware of that and want to prevent that. Governance. I think we'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who would describe the Police and Crime Commissioners as a roaring success at the moment. But it's an area of business that's crucial for accountability of the forces. Democratically elected, democratically accountable. If that's thrown out, what replaces it? We're looking at this carefully, but we are very, very concerned about the PCC relationship at the moment. Technology, we heard from the Chief HMI and Yvette Cooper. We all know the difficulties with technology. On one hand, it's made advancements to our job in fighting crime and terrorism, national security, but on the other hand, we have a long way to go to be the masters of technology and not trailing behind it. The challenges. They've been well laid out by Yvette Cooper. These are some of the main ones we see. The funding cuts. We worked out £2.1 billion. It will cost the 43 forces by 2015. The latest Treasury spending review, 2016-17, another 6% cut, 30,000 staff lost. How does that not hurt a service? It's going to have substantial impact on the police service. So change has got to be made how we deliver this service. We cannot sit on our hands. It's not an option. And with the superintending ranks, we know that up to now, 15% losses in some force, 47% disproportionately in other forces. Resilience of leadership is a huge issue, and that's something that's a serious threat to the police service and one that we're looking closely at. Maintaining public trust. who knows how long, we can draw on public trust. How many more scandals, issues, coverage of bad press can we take as a service? Nothing gets worse than what we've had to endure, I would say, in the last 12 months to 2 years with some of the coverage we've had. It's been terrible individually, it's terrible collectively, it's disastrous. And it can chip away and chip away and chip away. And we have to make sure that we are accountable, we are open-handed, but we don't want to be shooting ourselves in the foot as well. And we've got to tighten up as far as we possibly can in terms of police complaints, corruption, investigation. I'll come on to in a second about inspection and complaints, but it's going to be a major area of our recommendations. Because the one thing that happens with the eroding of and undermining of public confidence is that the public start to think that we haven't learnt the lessons. Oh, it's the cops again. They've screwed up again, they've let us down again, there's another scandal, another disaster. What's round the corner? The political landscape, the PCC's elected on 15%, 90% of people polled don't know who they are. Is it a strong mechanism for police accountability and efficiency? We would say not. It's had time to bed in. Are things getting better? Probably not. Are they getting worse? Read the newspapers. It's not a healthy outlook. We've got to do something about it in recommendations, and that's what we're doing. We're putting options together. And also what concerns us is the independence of chief officers. Where does the encroaching, how far can it go towards that independence? We've also heard today about inspection and the gaps that could be appearing now between forces. I was interested to hear what Tom Windsor said about HMI inspections and police and crime commissioner accountability and responsibility. Who polices them? And I think there are some serious issues emerging. Technology, words dysfunctional were mentioned. I wouldn't disagree with that. I don't suppose anyone in this room would. We've known it for many years. It's better than it's ever been, but we know that we've a long way to go to be considered and regarded as being masters of that trade. These are the key issues that we're looking at, mentioned by Yvette Cooper. A couple I'll just pick out are the organisation, the structures, and the workforce. The structures is something that we could spend all night tonight talking in this room about various structures, what works, what doesn't, where does it lead to, what does it create, what does it solve. But I am going to ask you the question very shortly. It's one of the questions that I do need your thoughts on. So please give that some thought before we get there. And the workforce. Shrinking workforce. Where do we start with trying to make sense of all the multiple roles that this service has to deliver? And who's going to deliver it? And are they going to be happy? Because you'll see in a second, we have a pretty unhappy workforce. And that comes as no surprise to this organisation, who said that morale is as low as it's ever been. And that's the superintendent's feedback to the Commission. The recommendations are still being worked up, but these are some of the findings. We'd say the state of morale is a great concern. We hear it year after year in the police service, nothing new, but this time it is serious. This has been a huge survey. Staff feel undervalued, unfairly treated by ACPO and leadership. What we found as well was, when we did the survey, that staff who feel that they've been fairly treated by their organisation get less complaints. That's good. But we've also found that public confidence is related to officer behaviour, so it knocks on. Just run through these. No voice in decision making. Many want to make use of social media to communicate with them. Women officers and staff in particular need more help to accommodate flexible working and want to see greater fairness in internal processes, especially for promotion and work distribution. Probably no surprises there, but we were quite surprised that a third of all the staff we surveyed said that they'd been bullied or were subject to harassment in their career, and many were at this moment in time. And that goes right through the ranks, not just junior officers, right through the ranks to the most senior ranks. And what we're looking at is what we're calling a new deal for officers. And this is where internal management, a fair and just service for the workforce. Areas for recommendation. These are some of the key ones. The role, partnerships, outsourcing, which I want to come on to in a second. Governance, which again, I want to ask for some feedback on governance on a question which will come up in 1 minute or two. Structures, again, the consensus, 43 models not fit for purpose. Superintendents Association share that view. It's our view as well. What do we replace it with? We've heard Yvette Cooper talk about some of the local policing, regional policing, collaborative arrangements with forces. What do we replace the 43 forces with? Which is the right way to go forward? Building a police profession. The College of Policing, we feel, is central to this. Inspection, regulation. We're moving possibly towards thinking a College of Policing could hold all this responsibility. Media. We need the media as much as the media need us, and we've got to have some sensible codes of conduct that allow the staff to do their job using the media within a code of ethics, but sensibly, not throwing the baby in the bathwater out. That's the end of my input, and I've just got some questions now, ladies and gents, which I'd just like your thoughts on. It's broad, but it's one that we ask, because we might be missing the blindingly obvious. But please, the first question I just want you to give some thought to is, and I only want, some brief answers with this, but the major challenges, the greatest challenge facing the police service today.
Okay, you want me to lead this?
Thanks, John.
Okay. Greatest challenge facing the police service today. Any volunteers? Yes, sir. Tazio.
Public expectation, our inability to communicate with the public and our inability to match expectation.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any more? Yes, gentleman down there behind you, Nora. Thank you.
I would say the outrageous politicisation of the police at all levels, from the crime commissioners right up to the government.
Sorry, could you just say again?
The outrageous politicisation of the police at all levels, from police and crime commissioners right through to the government.
Gentleman over here. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yeah, I think the increasing demand, particularly in some of the more serious cases, for example, child sexual exploitation on us, and the reducing resources, we need more resources to go into that and squaring that circle.
Gentleman over there.
Chris.
Yeah, the plethora of targets. I think the Home Secretary said there's one target, but I think some people have forgotten down at the next level that that one target is still about 350. So.
Okay, thank you.
And we've one more over here. Yes, sir.
Just the selection and development of our leadership.
Lady there.
World diversity. We can't communicate with people because we don't speak the languages, therefore we can't help the people to help themselves.
Gentleman there. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Just hand the mic over, would you? Thank you very much.
What does the police service stop doing today? Because we seem to be the last resort, and we don't seem to ever say, stop doing something, we've got to stop doing something.
Lady there.
Thank you.
Clarity about what we're here to do. Yvette Cooper mentioned about this wide plethora of what we're here to do, but we've got a current Home Secretary who said we're here to reduce crime. If we're not clear about what we're here to do, how can we deliver it? If we're really clear as a police service, it doesn't matter that we've got 43 forces, 43 PCCs. It becomes very clear what our direction is and everything else falls into place.
Gentleman here, thank you, madam.
Our inability to keep pace with technology, particularly social media.
Okay, any more?
Thank you.
I think we'll, in the interest of time, we've got a fair selection there.
Got a fair selection there, and I'm not ignoring the answers. Neris at the back is capturing all the answers you've given. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's go on to the next question.
This is a hot potato. We've only got maybe 2 or 3 minutes to capture this, but you know, I need your feedback here, please.
Who wants to kick off? The voice of Greater Manchester.
Better than police authorities.
Interesting.
Okay.
Right, any more on... Yes, sir.
From Lincolnshire's perspective, worse than authorities.
Okay.
Gentleman over there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, can I just echo the comment about better than police authorities? We've got somebody who's very, very pragmatic. So it depends on the individual.
Gentleman alongside you. Yes, sir.
More visionary than chief constables.
Gentleman at the back.
Yes, sir. From South York's perspective, a commissioner that's set a manifesto that's going to prevent us from making savings wants to increase visibility and increase numbers. That prevents us from actually not employing people and preventing redundancies.
So a bad thing?
Bad.
Thank you. Right, any more? Yes, right, there, sir.
The name is slightly different, but it's the same legal powers. Our experience has been willing to make some really bold decisions and invest for the long term.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, they're varied. Yeah, any more? Hey, all right, sir. Yes.
It's the fact that a policing crime commissioner in another police area can actually have a significant effect in their decision making on that other police force. In other words, when you're in quite a close collaboration, a decision made in another force, which they're clearly not accountable for, has a big impact on the taxpayers of the other force.
Okay, thank you very much. These are very useful. I think you agree.
It's useful, and just one comment on that. I think there are some examples where the police and crime commissioners are working well with the chief constables. There are others which are not, clearly, and judicial review perhaps isn't the best way to resolve some of these issues.
I'm only hurrying you along because we are behind schedule. If you don't mind, could I have the next question?
Just briefly, please, on this one, complaints mechanism, locally and nationally. How do you see it working?
Okay, complaints, our friend over there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, move the PSDs to the PCC's office and get rid of the IPCC.
Okay, any more on this issue? Yes, our friend down there, lady down there, please, thank you.
No, it's not working because, again, when we locally investigate ourselves, we're not honest with ourselves, we are defensive, and we do not acknowledge that we make mistakes, and we don't demonstrate that we're willing to learn.
Okay, thank you.
Any more on the complaint system? Anyone here who feels they've been bullied? I was staggered by what you said about bullying in the force, the figures you came up with. Anyone here who feels they've been bullied and feels the system didn't actually adequately deal with their complaint? Yes, sir.
I don't feel bullied at all, but I would say that some of our staff do, and the perception that there is unfairness towards BME officers is one that we need to grip and deal with, whether it's disproportionality or length of investigation, but it's a very real problem.
Okay, thank you.
Any hands I've missed? Right, yes, let's move on to the next question. Question 5, we could, Chris.
Question 4, I've just moved it on, John, which the current inspection mechanism, we've heard from Tom Windsor. Any views on this, please, from what you've heard?
Current inspection mechanism. Right, lady there. Yes, if we can get a mic to her. Oh, I'll bring one over to you, madam. Oh, someone else has done it. And then you, sir. Yeah, and I'll come back to you. Yeah.
I'm not sure it's the inspection mechanism that's causing a problem. It's what people do with it and who they blame. And I think sometimes when a force is found wanting, the blame seems to be coming to superintendents and chief superintendents, and that's not always accurate.
Our friend to my right, thank you, yes, sir.
Yeah, it's not the mechanism. Again, the question for me is, what is the priority? Everything seems to be a priority when a report's written. So the question is, with the funding, what do we actually prioritise once the inspections are completed?
Another one here.
Similar view really in relation to priorities, but also Mr. Windsor spoke eloquently about the lack of connectivity between all of our data systems, and the bureaucracy behind the inspections is a significant draw on frontline policing. So he needs to accept that.
Any more contributions from anyone? Yes, sir. Gentleman over here. There you go.
Thank you. I think it's right and correct that once commissioned, they will see the work through, regardless of the outcomes. So the body that commissions the work loses control of it thereafter, and it goes public no matter what the outcomes are.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
I think we should perhaps move on to question 5 now. Are you happy with that, Chris?
Again, if we could just concentrate on the outsourcing here, please. Mission creep was the expression used by the SUPS Association. Is that feeling one that the audience feel is a realistic concern?
Right. Lady here. Yes.
Hello, I'm Paula Wood from Lincolnshire, and we're the force who has formed a strategic partnership with G4S. It is put out as very positive, and there are some real strengths within it. However, when I'm sat here listening to people like Tom Windsor and Yvette Cooper, they're talking about change, the question that's come into my mind is, we're contractually obliged now. How are we going to be able to implement this change with a lot of investment and resources in contractual arrangements? So actually that could present some real challenges for us in a force where we're already really struggling.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Any more on this question? Yes, gentleman over there.
Yeah, with working with the local authorities particularly, quite often some of my staff say we should be giving stuff to other agencies to do. And when I'm talking to the chief executive, they're trying to get councillors to stop doing things. For example, to close a library is something that never gets done. So what they're doing is an exercise with councillors, start with nothing, pretend we've only just been invented, and let's start thinking about what we would actually have to do. And I think the trouble with the police service is maybe we ought to start with that sort of process as well. What do we have to do? Because we seem to have taken an awful lot, not necessarily other people's work, but exactly what it is we're here for and what is our bit and responsibility within that.
Gentleman here.
Yeah, specifically around the area of technology, I think we need to recognise that we don't have the solutions or the knowledge within either the superintendent or ACPO. Our age demographic's wrong, we just don't understand the problem. The people who understand the problem are the private sector, who are really good at it, but the problem that we have with PCCs, preventing us from working in the private sector is really significant.
Sir?
It's a general point really, but one goes back to Yvette Cooper's point around strategic leadership being provided by government. I think the government needs to take a closer look at the damage that's been caused by the unpicking of some of the strategic partnerships that already existed. So whether it's GP commissioning, whether it's social enterprises, whether it's free schools, academies, it's just more difficult to do strategic, localised business.
Lady there.
Yeah, on a similar point, really, it depends very much on your boundaries being coterminous with the other agencies, and in a number of forces they're not, or they even cross different force boundaries. So it's difficult to get a consistency.
Okay, I think, do you have one? We have one more. Yes, sir. And then we'll move on if you don't mind.
Yeah. Hello, Glenn Gudgeon from Cleveland Police. We've heard a lot of people talk today about the challenges we're facing in policing, and I think in relation to the private sector, we should allow the private sector to take on those areas of business that we do find challenging that aren't policing, such as finance, HR, procurement, etc.
Okay, thank you very much.
Question 6.
Final question.
Right. Who wants to go first? Yes, sir.
No.
Who wants to say yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Where are you from?
City of London.
City of London. Says Any more on that? Yes, our lady over there. Do you consider 43.4 structure sustainable?
I'm not so sure the question is about sustainability, because yes, it may be sustainable, but what's the cost and is it right would be my question, and would then say probably not.
Yes, okay. I mean, is it the best model for what we are facing as a service?
Right. Well, we've got one general question here from you, from this gentleman here. Introduce yourself, sir. Tell us what your question is.
Chris Brown from Hampshire.
was just picking back on the presentation you gave, and part of the survey question, it says you've surveyed 30,000 cops, but it was only 2,200 members of the public. Is the danger of the commission is actually a team of experts and ex-cops or whatever is just going to turn around to the public and say, this is what you're getting from policing, as opposed to involving the public truly in what policing should become in the 21st century?
Good point, thank you. Yes.
That's a good point. I think that I think we have to take notice of what the service is telling us. The experts are the people who are doing the job, largely. General public, we have consulted widely. That's the surveys that have been done. There has been a lot of consultation, radio, television. There's been road shows around the country in the regions led by Baroness Heggin and Baroness Harris. And they've had a team going all over the place. Public consultation is feeding into the findings. We are using reasoned, principled thought behind where we are going with these recommendations. We don't ignore, we listen, but we have to put some thought behind what we're also being told. And hence the views in this room and what was given to the Commission at the Lords and what was coming in on the written submission. There is nothing new that we've heard here in this room today that we haven't picked up. There are some threads, there are some themes, but a lot of what we are getting is pretty consistent. We've got to find a solution to this. Our view is it is not working. It cannot be the answer for 21st century policing. But consultation has been wide and far. And we could go on and on and on, but we feel that we've got a pretty comprehensive view.